Good afternoon, children.
Good
Good afternoon, ma'am.
So previous period we had completed Hershey-Chase experiment, and the aim of their experiment was to find out whether DNA or protein, which among these two is the genetic material. And for that they had grown bacteriophages into different media. One was radioactive phosphorus, other radioactive sulfur. And Gayatri, your doubt is why these steps have to be carried out, no? Blending, then infection, blending, and finally centrifugation. See, only by performing these steps they can separate out virus particles from bacterial particles. You know that when a virus or a bacteriophage is attacking the bacteria, the method of infection is in this way, that is, they will get attached to the cell wall of bacterium. First, they will come and get attached to the cell wall of bacterium, and once they have got attached to the cell wall, they will transfer the genetic material to the bacterial cell. And materials other than the genome will remain outside. Gayatri, you are getting? Only genetic material of this bacteriophage will go inside. Remaining parts will be outside. And what these scientists were investigating is which substance, whether it is DNA. I told they had they had doubt about two molecules. They want to know whether it is DNA or proteins. So they want to confirm which material they had transferred. Phages had transferred into the bacteria. So for that, what they did is they had made already radioactive. These phages, they were made radioactive. Either they had radioactive proteins or radioactive DNA. So what they did was they made these phages to attack bacteria. So upon attacking, just like the normal process, they transferred the genetic material. And after that, they did blending. See, upon blending, the virus coat, which is attached to the bacterial cell, it will get separated. It will get separated from the bacterial cell wall. And once blending is done, they are subjected to centrifugation. Centrifugation means here the substance will be rotating at high speed. And once it stops, all these substances inside will get settled on the basis of its density. So heavier particles will get settled down. Okay? And lighter particles will remain on the top. And lighter particles are actually the virus particles. When compared to viral particles, bacterial particles will be heavier and they will be settling at the bottom. The bacterial cells will settle at the bottom and the supernatant will be consisting of viral particles. This much have you understood, Gayatri?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Now when they checked, so when they afterwards they checked, because in two different media they had grown these bacteriophages. So the last slide I will show you again. Okay. So this much hope you have understood.
Ma'am.
Yes. Yes, Steffi.
What are we actually blending?
See, the entire bacteria. Virus has got the bacteriophage has got attached to the bacterial cell wall. And what they did after that? Tell me. After getting attached to the bacterial cell wall, what is the next step?
Transfers the genetic.
They will transfer the only genetic material. The transforming principle. Only genetic material will go inside. Remaining will be outside, getting attached to the remains attached to the bacterial cell wall. But when we do blending, they get separated. The bacterial cell and this viral coats will get separated. We don't know with what the coat is made. So the suspects were protein and DNA. Either they can remain outside or they might have gone inside. They wanted to know. So to separate them out, blending is done. Then it is subjected to centrifugation. Then they will be sedimenting or getting separated in different layers. Yes?
Okay.
Blending is done to separate the viral coats from the bacterial cells. Once that is done, they carry out centrifugation. So they will get or they form different layers depending upon their density. Heavier particles will settle at the bottom, lighter particles remain on the top. Okay, now we will see the last slide. Okay, now see the observation. Bacteria, we had two types of viruses. We had two types. One was having, or one were grown in radioactive phosphorus. The other were grown in radioactive sulfur. Children, those viruses which were grown in radioactive phosphorus will have radioactive DNA or proteins. Grown in radioactive phosphorus, they will have radioactive DNA or proteins.
DNA.
If you say that, I can proceed. Tell me.
DNA.
Yes, radioactive DNA. And those viruses which were grown in radioactive sulfur will have, those viruses grown in radioactive sulfur will have two options: radioactive proteins or radioactive DNA.
Protein.
Very good. Radioactive proteins. Why proteins? Only proteins contain sulfur. Only proteins will take up sulfur. DNA is not having sulfur, so it will not take it up from the medium. Okay. So I'll continue. Now see, bacteria. Listen carefully. Bacteria infected with. We made the bacteria to get affected with two types of viruses. So those bacteria which were affected or infected with viruses having radioactive DNA, they turn to be radioactive. From that, what can you understand, Gayatri? I know you are not well, you are feeling sleepy, all that I understand, but we need to understand the concept, no? Yes, Gayatri. Now you might be thinking, why I asked the doubt. No, you will be thorough, that's why.
DNA is passed from the virus.
If the bacteria infected with viruses are having radioactive DNA, if they were found to be radioactive, means it was this DNA that got transferred. If it was proteins, they cannot be radioactive. Got it? Because DNA was a genetic material they transferred. That made the bacteria radioactive. Meenakshi, have you understood? How many percentage you understood? How many percentage?
98%.
Okay, thank God. 2% is remaining. Now, second one, bacteria infected with viruses having radioactive protein were not radioactive. From that itself, what can you understand? It was not protein which formed the genetic material that is injected into the bacterial cell. Okay, that is why the bacteria affected with viruses having radioprotein did not become radioactive, because that was not transferred. Instead, DNA got transferred. In the second case, DNA was not radioactive. So, bacteria also cannot be radioactive. Okay, Shafi?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then the conclusion. DNA is the infecting agent, or that is a material which gets transferred from viruses to bacteria, and it is not the protein. Did you read after last period? Let me check. Who will begin? Nandana, you may begin with the experiment. One step you can say. Children, feel free to tell me if you have any doubts. Yes, Nandana.
Alfred Hershey and Martha Stewart, they worked on bacteriophages. Bacteriophages, they learned that bacteriophages would attack the cell wall of the bacteria, and then the genetic material would pass into the bacterial cell.
Yes, then Rijas, and how did they perform the experiment? To begin with, what they did? They grew them in. You're saying something, Rijas? Somebody should dub for you. Yes.
They grew as a medium.
Not clear.
Radioactive.
One group was grown in radioactive
phosphorus.
Other group was grown in
Radioactive sulfur.
Sulfur. Okay. Evelyn, then what happened?
The viruses which were growing.
Speak a little louder.
The virus which were growing in radioactive phosphorus become
radioactive
phosphorus has radioactive DNA. And the other one, which was growing in radioactive.
Okay, what is the reason for that? Why only DNA became radioactive?
Because phosphorus is present in DNA.
Okay, correct. Then Sharon, next point. What happened to the viruses grown in radioactive sulfur?
They do not have radioactive DNA.
But what do they have?
They have radioactive protein.
By?
Because sulfur were present in protein.
Sulfur is an important constituent of protein. Now what is the next step? Naureen?
The radioactive bacteriophages were allowed to enter the E. coli bacteria and then
allowed to infect.
And then the bacteriophages transferred the genetic
material. Then Meenakshi?
Then to separate the virus codes from the bacteria.
By means of blending. Then what is the next step, Steffi?
It was left to centrifuge, so the heavier particles were settled down and the lighter ones came at the top.
Okay. Then, Malavika?
The bacteria infected with virus having radioactive DNA, they were radioactive. And those who were infected with radioactive protein, they were not radioactive.
Okay. But what was radioactive in that case? Bacteria infected with radioactive DNA became radioactive. But the supernatant was not?
Protein was not radioactive.
Radioactive. Whereas in the other case, the bacteria was not radioactive, but the supernatant, the protein codes were radioactive. Okay. So have you understood from this? What can you conclude, Mehak? From these different steps they performed, or from the experiment, what they concluded, Hershey and Chase?
That DNA is the genetic material.
DNA is the genetic material. Understood, no? Now, Nandana and Michael, you can take the seminar. Who is going to begin with? Take it a little more energetically, nothing to be worried, and try to involve the participation of your friends. Otherwise, you know what happens during my class now? History will get repeated. Okay. Gayatri, you look so dull. What happened?
No, ma'am, I'm better.
Not well. That's what. Fever?
Allergy.
Take care. Yes, Nandana, you may start.
Ma'am, just a minute more.
You may start.
A very good afternoon to everyone present here. I'm going to take the seminar on the topic adaptations from the chapter Organisms and Population. Is the screen visible?
Yes.
Okay. So what are adaptations? Adaptations are attributes of an organism which could be morphological, physiological, or behavioral that enables the organism to survive and reproduce in its habitat. Now, what do you mean by morphological, physiological, and behavioral? Morphological represents the appearance of an organism. Physiological means the internal cycles of the organism, and behavioral emphasizes the behavior of the organism. Now, why are adaptations necessary? Due to adaptations, organisms are able to adjust to new environments. From one place to another, when someone moves, it becomes difficult. These adaptations help them to survive better. And thus, they increase the likelihood of survival and reproduction, and evolution also can take place. Now, how do adaptations develop? Adaptations develop when certain variations or differences in a population help some members survive better than others. These variations can be genetic, they can be abiotic, they can be biotic. So the variation may already exist within the population, but often the variation comes from a mutation. We've learned what mutations are, changes in genetic material. So mutations can also cause variations. Now we can learn some adaptations present in some animals. The first one is kangaroo rat. They're found in North American deserts and they meet their water requirements by internal fat oxidization. So internal fat oxidization is the process of breaking down of fatty acids into smaller molecules of fat. And the water is a byproduct, so they get their water requirements from there. They can also concentrate their urine, and thus minimal water is used for the removal of excretory products. Now, owls. Owls is not there in the textbook, but I found it very interesting, so I added it here. They have silent flight. Now, if you all can see the photo of the owl, there are ridged wings. These ridged wings are called flutes, and they allow lesser amount of air to flow through the wings, above the wings. This helps them to keep their flight very silent, and thus they can catch their prey without noticing them, without them noticing their presence. Now, supreme vision. They have extremely wide eyes, which help them to, their vision is very strong, even during the day and during the night. They also have extreme hearing, which allows them to suspect prey around them very easily. And they can be hidden from view, which means they have extremely good camouflage properties. And extra long claws on their feet, which help them to rip apart the flesh from their prey very easily. Now in desert plants have thick cuticles on leaf surfaces. Cuticles are waxy coatings on top of the leaves. They help lessen the water loss. Same with sunken stomata. Sunken stomata means the stomata are not present on the surface. They're not exposed, but they are sunken and they're in pits. And there is a special photosynthetic pathway for them, which is known as CAM, crescellation acid metabolic pathway. And some have no leaves but have spines, which are the reduced forms of leaves. Now, when I was a kid, I used to think the large part of the green part used to be leaves, but they're actually stems, and the small spiny parts are the leaves. This photosynthesis is carried out by these flattened stems, which is the main part of the cactus. Example is Opuntia. Camels, again, is not in the textbook, but I found them very interesting. They have wide feet so that they can balance themselves on sand. They have long eyelashes and thin slit nostrils, which allows them, they can close these nostrils whenever they want to allow lesser amount of sand to go into them. And they have a humped back, and this hump contains stored fat, which they can use whenever there is water or food shortage. And there is a thick coat of hair for to absorb heat and also to allow heat loss at the same time. Both the things can be conducted. Now, mammals in colder regions, they have shorter ears and limbs to minimize heat loss. This is also known as Allen's rule. We can see many colder region animals here. We have seals, Arctic fox, polar bears, penguins, whales, etc. And aquatic animals, they also have a thick layer of fat known as blubber below the skin. This acts as an insulator so that they can keep themselves warm. Now, physiological and biochemical adaptations. Altitude sickness is a mechanism for us that we adapt when we go at high altitude places. Symptoms include nausea, fatigue, and heart palpitations. Nausea means the tendency to vomit. Fatigue means tiredness, and heart palpitations is the abnormal heartbeat. The body, it compensates low oxygen availability by increasing the red blood cell production, and it also decreases the binding affinity of hemoglobin, thus increasing the breathing rate. Archaebacteria flourish in hot springs and deep sea hydrothermal vents where temperature exceeds 100 degrees Celsius. Now we've learned about Archaebacteria in 11th standard, thermoacidophiles, halophiles, etc. They can flourish in temperatures that exceed 100 degrees Celsius. This is because of their structure of the cell membrane. And fishes of the Antarctic waters are able to survive at temperatures lower than 0 degrees Celsius. Antarctic fishes produce an antifreeze protein that keeps their body fluids from turning into crystals. And many marine invertebrates and fishes live at great ocean depths with pressures 100 times greater than the atmospheric pressure. This is because deep sea fishes, they do not have air sacs. We as humans, we have air sacs. We have lungs that inflate when there is air. And even other fishes, they contain swim bladders, something that allows them to inflate and them to float on the surface of the sea. But deep fishes, they do not contain these air sacs. And thus, the pressure does not allow them to crush themselves. Now, behavioral adaptations. Desert lizards, they bask in the sun and absorb heat when their body temperature falls. And they also move into the shade when the ambient temperature starts increasing. And some species are capable of burrowing into the soil to hide and escape from the above ground heat. Example, beavers. There are other animals like moles that also do the same thing, but they also do it for searching for food and for shelter. Now, adaptations in humans. Humans have biological plasticity, which means that they can adapt easily to anything that is present, any environment around. Biological adaptations vary in their length of time, anywhere from a few seconds for a reflex to a lifetime, as in genetic variations. We know that evolution is a result of genetic variations. Similarly, we have reflexes, like when we touch something hot, we attain a reflex, and that is why we remove our hand from the hot object. Now, what type of adaptation is activated often depends on the severity and duration of stressors in the environment. Stressors are basically anything that can change the balance from the normal lifestyle. And stressors can be of three types: abiotic, biotic, and social. Abiotic stressors include climate, altitude, etc. Biotic include diseases like genetic diseases or just normal diseases. And social stressors include psychological issues like stress, tension, depression, anything. These are adaptations. These are stressors that cause adaptations. Now, other examples for human adaptations include sweating. Many animals sweat, but few use it for evaporative cooling, like humans. Humans as well as horses can do this. We're also able to breathe through our mouths when we run, taking in more oxygen as well as further dissipating heat. As we lose heat, we can also intake oxygen. Standing upright. Many of the mammals and other animals that we know stand on 4 feet, but we are able to stand upright, which is another reason of adaptation. Hearing tuned for speech. We also have better hearing than other primates, and we have our hearing is between 1 to 6 kilohertz, where most human speech occurs. Many other mammals and other organisms have hearing frequencies different than this, thus not allowing them to hear our speech. So this is all that I had to take. A summary of what I had taken. Adaptation and its importance. So what is adaptation, why it is necessary, and how it is developed. Then types of adaptations in various animals. We saw kangaroo rat, desert plants, and other animals. Psychological and biochemical adaptations, as well as adaptations in humans. Thank you.
Ma'am, you are mute.
Ma'am, you're muted. You're muted.
Sorry. Okay, but you understood it was a compliment, no? That's why you smiled. Okay, what I said is, it was a beautiful presentation. The PowerPoint I liked, and you have got a very soothing voice. I said, not a piercing voice like mine. Okay, then my suggestion is that if you can include a few questions towards the end, some multiple choice or a quiz like towards the end, you can test how far or how much your friends are paying attention. So whoever has to take seminar again, include that. Otherwise, your friends will simply have a entertainment show. So they need to listen. So this is how they get additional extra information. Many of you had included, you two had included some extra information. I prefer that because the rest I have taught you, it's there in the textbook. But if some curious facts, some interesting facts, if you can include that, your classmates will feel like listening. And include some 2-3 questions, some quiz questions, and let us find out who will answer it. Some tricky questions you can include, just one-word answers. I'm not asking you to include some lengthy questions. Try out that, whoever has to take it again. And shall we continue with Michael? Michael is all set?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So we can continue.
Ma'am, can you see the...
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Oh, your PowerPoint is also too good. Font I liked. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm going to take a seminar on the topic microbes in household products. So microbes exist everywhere on planet Earth, in the soil, air, water, and also in the human body and bodies of plants and other animals. When we first think of microbes or bacteria, germs and diseases, the first things that come to our mind is that they're diseases. However, there are a vast number of microbes that aid us in our daily affairs. So today I'll show you some of the different ways that we use it in our daily life and household products. So first, we have lactic acid bacteria. Lactic acid bacteria is used in the production of milk to curd. So milk is converted to curd by microorganisms known as lactobacillus, and they are commonly known as lactic acid bacteria, or LAB, which grow in milk and convert it to curd. During the growth of bacteria, the LAB produce acids that coagulate and partially digest the milk proteins, and a small amount of curd is added to the fresh milk, and it's called inoculum or starter, which at suitable temperatures multiply, thus converting the milk into curd. And this also improves the nutritional quality, increasing the vitamin B12. In our stomach, LAB plays a very beneficial role checking diseases causing microbes. So here we can see a picture of milk, and it's with the help of LAB, it's converted into curd. So next is microbes in fermentation. Microbes are used in the fermentation of dough, which is used for making foods such as dosha and idli, and is also fermented by bacteria. So here we can see the picture of dough before it's fermented, and after its fermentation, it rises up the reason it rises up is due to the production of CO2. And this dough here is also used in making baker's yeast called Saccharomyces cerevisiae. A number of traditional drinks and foods are also made by the fermentation of microbes. Toddy, which is a traditional drink of some parts of southern India, is made by fermenting sap from palm trees. And microbes are also used to ferment fish, soya bean, and bamboo shoots to make foods. And here there's a picture of toddy, which is harvested from palm trees. Next, we have microbes and the production of cheese. Different varieties of cheese are known by their characteristic texture, flavor, and taste. The specificity coming from the microbes used. So here we have a picture of Swiss cheese, and it has a lot of large holes. The large holes in Swiss cheese are due to a production of large amount of CO2 by a bacterium named Propionibacterium sharmani. And Roquefort cheese is ripened by growing a specific fungi on them, which gives them a particular flavor. Roquefort belongs to a group of the so-called blue cheeses due to the blue-colored veins. It develops from the growth of Penicillium roqueforti, which is added to the curd or introduced through holes poked in the rind. So if you see this image of the cheese, it has a lot of blue holes or veins, and that's what gives them their distinct flavor. So microbes also have plenty of other uses. They're used in growing legumes. Leguminous plants such as soybeans, peas, clover, alfalfa, and beans form intimate associations with nitrogen-fixing bacteria like Rhizobium. The bacteria essentially move into the root cells and form little homes for themselves called nodules. With these nodules, the bacteria change completely from their free living form and produce nitrogen compounds that are used by the plant in exchange for shelter and organic compounds made by the plant. And it's also used in brewing beer, liquor, and wine. Along with the bread making, the yeast Saccharomyces cerevisiae is probably best known for its use in making alcoholic beverages. This process involves mixing a sugar source, barley for beer, fruit juice for wine, or rice or potato starch for spirits, with yeast and water. And microbes can also be used in setting up aquariums, and they encourage the establishment in the tank of ammonia oxidizing bacteria and archaea that live in the filter and the tank sediment and convert ammonia to less harmful products in a process called nitrification. So that's all. Thanks for watching.
Michael, you can stop sharing. Others have any doubts? Any doubts are there? No. Michael, where are you? Okay, well done, Michael. Now, who else is remaining? Be prepared, okay? Now, we have a few more. Who all did not get a chance so far? And Michael, this belongs to the previous chapter, no? Microbes in human welfare.
Yes,
you forgot to take it early? Yeah. Anyways, both of you asked me today whether they can take the seminar today. That I liked anyhow. Because I didn't have to remind them. They had asked me, they had messaged me and asked, can we take it today? Okay, good. Then Sharon has taken. Vidur, what about you? No.
Friday, ma'am. Friday.
Okay. Meenakshi has taken. Steffi has taken. Mehek, Gayatri, Malaviga, Rijas, Donna also took. No, Anthony? You have to take seminar, no? Anna also took, no? Anna, did you complete your seminar?
Ma'am, I think I didn't complete that day. I couldn't
Okay,
complete.
why you didn't tell me then? Next day.
Okay.
Prepare on Wednesday then. Okay, I'll take the attendance. Thank you, children. See you next class. Read the textbook, okay? This chapter is a little confusing. So revise your daily lessons. Otherwise, you won't be able to follow the next day's class. Okay? Thank you.